2015 Reads Part 1, but Andy, it's only April. Yes, gentle viewer, I know it's only April, but I've already read 11 books this year, and originally I was just going to make one big video at the end of 2015 saying everything I read in my reviews, but then I realized that video is going to be like 15 hours long if I do it that way. So today we're going to talk about the first 11 books I read this year. Here we go. Also, this is literally just going to be a booktube video, so if you're not into booktube, this is your warning to click away. The first book I read this year was Wicked, and I hated it. I don't get the phenomenon even a little bit. The only things I thought were interesting were the political strife, like how the wizard is sort of this bad politician and he's taken over and doing all these things to Quadling country, and the debate of animals versus animals. But beyond that, I really just thought this book was stupid, and there was a lot of weird sex stuff. Like, there's a whole paragraph that's just describing the differences in Elphaba's pubic hair to another girl's. Also, I was kind of annoyed at how little Elphaba there was in it. Like, I expected that this book was all about how she became the Wicked Witch of the West, but all it actually did was never describe why she's green or why water hurts her, vaguely describe why she went to the West, and hint at the fact that she was involved with politics going against the wizard. Kinda. So, I don't know, I mean, right now I'm thinking I'll never see the play, but if you're someone who's seen the play and read the book and think that they're really different and the play is worthwhile, please by all means let me know in the comments. I give Wicked 4 out of 10. The next book I read was Avatar: The Rift, the comic book. I am counting parts 1, 2, and 3 all as one book since they're such short comics. I, of course, love these. I'm a huge fan of the Avatar: The Last Airbender series, and I love that they're doing comics to continue the story. I didn't, however, realize that you should really read The Promise before you read The Rift, because there are some characters in here that get introduced in The Promise. So the whole time I'm just like, who the hell are these people, and why are they acting like I should know them already? Also, with the Avatar comics, not just The Rift, but all the comics for the series, I really like getting to see how Aang and Katara actually act as a couple, instead of just what their relationship forming is like. It's really fun to just see little snippets like them calling each other honey and stuff. I don't know, I love it. But yes, The Rift parts 1 through 3, 10 out of 10. My third book of the year was Fairest, which is a companion novel to the Lunar Chronicles. The order of the Lunar Chronicles is Cinder, Scarlet, Cress, Fairest, inserted in there, and then Winter. I do think you should read the first 3, then Fairest, then Winter, because there's clearly a lot of backstory for book 4 getting put into this, but you don't want to read it first because you're going to get a bunch of spoilers. I thought Fairest was excellent. It's super short, so it took like 5 seconds to read. And I thought it was really refreshing because most of the time when you get the villain side of the story, it's a sympathy for the devil kind of thing. But not Levana. Marissa Meyer was just like, no, Levana is evil and manipulative. She might have had some circumstances that led to just how evil she became, but she is a bad mofo, and she is just a bad person, and that's the story. I would give Fairest 10 out of 10. Book 4 was the collection of Aesop's Fables. It's one of those things where everyone knows these things. This is the guy who did Tortoise and the Hare. But very rarely have you actually read them. At least I'd never read any of these. And they're all just these super short little things. It's a little hard to give it a specific rating because there were some fables in here that I absolutely loved and other ones that I wanted to die in a fire. So I'm not going to give this one a rating, but I will say it is worth your time to read. Also, for those of you who care about this kind of thing, this specific edition does have a foreword that describes who Aesop was and his life as a Greek slave and things like that. My 5th book of the year was another collection, but a collection of comics. This is the Superhero Women of Marvel. This was actually published in the 70s, so I don't know if you'll be able to find it. I found it on Amazon, and this is the cheapest one I could find, and it was like $35, so it is an investment. But it has the introduction comic strips for some of the coolest women in Marvel, like Miss Marvel, the girl from Fantastic Four, Black Widow, the villain from Thor, all sorts of stuff. And it's surprising how forward-thinking some of it is, just considering it was written in the 70s. And then other times you're like, nope, there's the 70s. There's the patriarchy looming its head. For example, Red Sonja, who is by far one of the most badass women probably ever written in comics, yet this is her outfit. I mean, what? Her stupid clothes, or lack of clothes, actually ruined her comic strip for me. I just couldn't get over the fact that she has a tiny strip of metal covering her butt crack, and that's it. Like, come on, come on. But hey, at least now it's the year 2015, so we never see women depicted like that, right? Right? Still though, I give this a solid 9 out of 10. It also has some great commentary written by Stan Lee himself, so it's really cool. My 6th book of the year was just this tiny little collection, Tales from King Arthur. And it's exactly that. It's just some of the most popular stories all compiled into this one little book. And it was a lot sadder than I thought it was going to be. I've never really done much King Arthur or the Round Table, but I've always been curious. And I didn't realize, spoilers ahead, I didn't realize that the quest for the Holy Grail is actually what destroyed Camelot. So that was rough. That was a rough time for you, Camelot. That was rough. I definitely think that a book like this, if not this exact one, is definitely worth the read just because there are so many references floating out there in our culture to King Arthur and the Round Table. Now you'll actually get all of those references, and you can sound so smart talking about Lancelot and his secret love for Guinevere. My next book was another short one. This is actually a book of poetry called Averno. It's poetry that's mostly based in Greek mythology, specifically surrounding Hades and Persephone, which I am all about. And there are just some really great lines in here, such as, "It was a time governed by contradictions, as in, I felt nothing and I am afraid." Definitely worth the read. My 8th book was A Natural History of Dragons, and this is probably my favorite thing I've read this year. It's technically the first book in a series, but it has a complete enough ending where if you didn't want to commit to the whole series, this is actually quite satisfying just as a novel. But I love this. It's pretty different than anything I read. I mean, it's still in a fantasy world and it's about dragons, but it's written as a memoir. So the narrator and your main character is an old woman recounting her adventures on how she became a leading scientist, basically, a leading natural historian in the field of dragons, which in the context of this world is something no one's really been studying yet, and dragons are just sort of this creature no one knows anything about. So there's a lot of traveling, and there's like dramatic fights, and there's like secret government things happening, and it's all written very like science-y as opposed to a great quest of a narrative, which is exactly how it should be for a narrator like this. I would give it a 10 out of 10. 11 out of 10 for goodness sakes. Continuing my dragon kick, the 9th book of the year was the Dragon Age Library Edition. Library Edition means that it's these hardcovers and that they include usually all the comics of that series that are currently out. So for Dragon Age, that means The Silent Grove, Those Who Speak, and Until We Sleep. It also has just a bunch of cool additional artwork and like the making of kind of things. I would give this probably like an 8 out of 10, but I admit I was pretty disappointed. The 3 main characters are Alistair from Dragon Age 1 and Varric and Isabella from Dragon Age 2, because this came out before Inquisition. And those are 3 characters that I absolutely love. Alistair and Varric are always my best friends, and Isabella was the first romance I ever chose. So I was really into it, and it kind of just let me down. I don't think the writers captured Alistair's voice at all. Like, with Isabella and Varric, I could hear their voice actors saying their lines. Alistair, not even kinda. Like, he just didn't even feel like the same character to me. And I know he should be a little different because he is king in this book, but, I don't know. There was no, like, oh, awkward Alistair, you're so cute and endearing kind of moments that make you love him so much in the first game. Also, the bigger disappointment was how super freaking sexualized the drawings of female characters are. I realize that that's twice in one video I've talked about the sexualization of women in comic books, but it's annoying! Especially from a franchise like Dragon Age that's so well known for not doing exactly that. I mean, you have characters like Isabella who are all sexy, sure, but you also have characters like Aveline and Cassandra who are in full armor at all times. And then you have characters like Meryl who are like stick figure thin, totally covered up, nothing really sexy going on there. You know, when you have all spectrums being represented like that, it doesn't matter so much when you have 1 or 2 like super sexy ladies. But literally every female character in this comic was drawn like just super ooh la la, look at her body. even the Kunari Priestess, so that was a little disappointing. But Dragon Age itself is one of my all-time favorite game franchises, and this book was definitely worth reading, even if it is really hard to hold open. My 10th book of the year, putting me halfway toward my goal for 2015, which was to read 20 books, was Joy for Beginners. I actually bought this at the dollar store, which was surprising because it's a hardback and everything. And I just saw it, and I recently lost a family member, so I was feeling a little down. I just kind of picked it up, figured it was only $1, so what's the risk? However, I actually ended up loving it. I'd probably give it 9 out of 10. The only reason I don't give it 10 out of 10 was there were times where it was pretty unrelatable to me. Just being a young, unmarried woman without kids, reading stories about the struggles of motherhood is sometimes kind of weird. While this is technically a novel and all the stories are connected, each chapter is actually a short story dedicated to a different woman. And the whole premise is that during the course of the year, all of these women have to try something that they either really don't want to do or they've never been open-minded to doing, and end up really being glad that they went out of their comfort zone. So if you're someone who's just feeling kind of down lately, or maybe a little stuck, or suddenly having one of those moments where, whoa, is this what my life is? I think Joy for Beginners would be an excellent choice, especially if you know anyone struggling with breast cancer, because that's what this book centers around. And book 11, Greek Gods. This is a companion piece to the Percy Jackson series, which is my favorite book series of all time. Similar to Dragon Age, this book was a little bit hard to keep open while reading, but it was amazing. I give it a 10 out of 10. It has all the awkward humor and quirky side stories that you love about Percy Jackson, and the mythology is really, really accurate. This is a lot of reading. Almost all the pages in this book, there are a couple illustrations. By the way, the illustrations in this book are phenomenal. This depiction of Gaia and Uranus is my favorite. But yeah, this is a lot of text to get through, so be prepared for a commitment if you read it. And there you have it. Those are the 11 books I've read so far. I'm sorry I didn't go into more detail about them. I just didn't want this video to be 30 minutes long, me talking about all of these books. Hopefully if you're looking for something new to read, I've given you some ideas. And if based off the stuff I talked about, you feel like you know a book I would just absolutely love, by all means recommend it in the comments, because comments. Please leave recommendations in the comments, because I'm always looking to add to my collection. Not that I should be, because my TBR list is it grows so fast. So I will be back with part 2 of this video at the end of the year, and between now and then, read on. Oh god, I can't end the video like that.